Okay. Okay. What about audience? Who do you think the target audience was there? There's no right answer.
I would say people that have the time and money now to give back to everyone else.
Okay. Kids? Adolescents, teenagers, college students?
Teenagers a little bit.
A little bit?
Mostly adults probably, but even adults.
Okay. What about the length?
What?
The length of the video?
I mean, it was a little long, but I think it was
worth it.
It was powerful, but I don't know if people would look at and see like the 7-minute video necessarily. Like once you start watching it, I think you would like keep watching it, but you might not click on it because it's 7 minutes.
Right, because you don't have 7 minutes, right? Exactly. And I brought up in the other classroom, and my experience with adolescents and teenagers is about 20 seconds and I'm going to lose you. After that, they're gone. And you may fog in, but you kind of fog back out. So these were my concerns when I first saw this video. I loved it for the adults. I loved it for the corporation presentations. I thought, yes, it's very befitting. But when it comes to kids, there was some topics that I don't know if I want my little ones seeing. So that was one of my concerns here. And I kind of realized that this is what needs to be addressed, and that's why we're here today. As you can see, the individuals that were affected or impacted, helped by the United Way, they did have they were very diversified. You know, whether it was ethnicity, socioeconomic background, gender, yeah. So with that, you want to talk about diversity?
Yeah, so one of the things that the United Way tries to do is obviously it wants to raise money to help people, but we also need to know, as part of that fundraising component, who we're trying to target. This, as you know, some of you talked about, may be great with your parents, may be great for someone who has an elderly father who needs independence, and they see things like that and it really connects with them. Likewise, we need to figure out ways to reach other audiences. So young adults is one thing. There are different, I guess, subgroups or sort of committees that support the United Way. We're one of them. We do the Multicultural Society. There's also a Young Leaders Society. There's an African American Society. There's a Women's Society. There's a Retirees Society. And those groups have volunteers like us, and we really focus on that sort of target demographic to get them the message that we need as to why we need money. As Mrs. Carr said, we're trying to raise $1.32 million from our target audience to help apply toward that larger $70+ million goal. So the Multicultural Society, we are in the business of really helping explain why diversity is important in the community. So we work on that, and we also listen to different ethnic groups that live in this community because they may have different needs. Some may need, I don't know if they have ESL here, but you know, some may need language help. Some may need just financial help. Some people may need retraining. Some people need counseling. You know, they may be coming from a war-torn country and are refugees and have trauma that they need to get over. Many years ago, when I was in college here in St. Louis, I helped volunteer with a group of Bosnians that had been relocated from the Civil War, and I think you were with me. There was a little girl who had been evacuated from a little town called Srebrenica, and you may hear about it in history or not, but it was a town that was massacred in the Civil War. This girl, ever since she had come to the United States as a refugee, had not spoken, wouldn't smile. She was just catatonic, and part of the problem was the things she had seen. Part of the things that were things that she had to deal with in the refugee camp that she was in. They had to take out all her teeth because they were rotting. She was in just immense poverty before they rescued her. And one of the things that the agency that was helping her, which is the United Way agency, was helping her getting counseling, kind of returning her back to society and helping her get across. There are so many different things that, say that particular demographic, refugees, there's a certain way that we need to reach out to them and understand what sort of help they need from the United Way so we can provide those services. Those are just a handful of examples of why diversity is so important for us, so we can understand our community, not only so they can help the United Way, because a lot of these people do want to give back because they're so happy to be here, but also how we can help them. And so about 2 or 3 years ago, the Multicultural Society started to kind of accomplish those goals. And Matt can tell you a little bit about some of the things that we've started working on.
Yeah, so as Arundham said, the United Way Multicultural Leadership Society started 3 years ago. In an effort to bring together international diversity and ethnic kind of minded individuals, people interested in learning about different cultures, people from other cultures, is kind of a place where we could learn from each other, learn what the different needs are in the community, and figure out how we best can give back and serve those communities. One of the vehicles by which that we've chosen to do that is through educational forums. So, like if I ask you, what's an educational forum? Do you know, anybody have an idea what that means? Okay, so, and neither did I, so what we'll do is, we'll pick a ethnic group that has doesn't have to be a significant presence, but thus far that's what we've done. So for example, a Hispanic group, okay? People know, okay, there's a lot of Hispanic people in St. Louis. I might know a couple, but do I really know, their ethnic group as a whole? What challenges do they face? What was their journey like getting here? Where are they from? What needs do they have? So, the United Way and the Multicultural Society will reach out to that community, to their leaders, and say, hey, we want to know about you guys. Come to this educational forum, sit on a panel, and tell us about yourself, as best you can. And, everybody has a different story, but just in a general perspective of, okay, here's the Hispanic community, here's how immigration affects us, here's how the job situation affects us, here's how lack of citizenship affects us, and, by us being, diversity-minded, curious individuals, we learn from that, we get a different perspective. So you walk in there, with a preconceived notion of this particular group, and you walk out of there with a whole different perspective. You walk out of there from their perspective. So we've done that with Bosnians, Asians, and the Hispanic group, as I said. Aside from the educational forums, we'll do community service events. So we've had one at the International Institute, their community garden. The International Institute has a community garden that they let immigrants farm to raise money. So these immigrants will farm that land. They'll go ahead and sell their produce at their local farmers market in that area. So we'll go down there, bring a whole bunch of people in sweatpants and rake their plot and plant seeds for them, just in another effort to connect with them, get their perspective. You'll hear some stories and things like that, and just kind of share perspectives and learn.
So these are some of the things that we're doing to reach out to sort of our peers, people who are in the corporate world, who are trying to figure out how diversity and multiculturalism is important, not only to them as individuals, but also as a business. These are customers, these are their employees, and they want a better understanding. That's great. But what we want to expand upon and where we need your help is, how can we get this message that obviously is powerful, what the United Way does, helping people. In addition to, how can we get the message out about diversity? Why is it important to know people beyond this classroom, beyond your school? You're going to meet people from different backgrounds, whether it's gender, obviously, ethnicity, religious background, socioeconomic backgrounds, and you're going to have to deal with them in college and beyond. And the earlier you appreciate that people have different stories and come to the table with different ideas and learn how to deal with it and understand it and work together, it's it's going to help you in the long run. That sounds extremely boring when I explain it. What we would like you guys to do is help us convey those general themes, what the United Way does, and the importance of diversity, and translate it so your peers, whether it's, you know, a YouTube video, which is, you know, one brainstorm that we came up with, or if it's something else where you can quickly, effectively reach out to your friends, not only here but other schools, and say, hey, this is what the United Way is. One of the things they're really interested in is diversity, and, you know, whether it's information or how you can help, that's where we need your help. How can we get that message across? And the larger big picture of this is, as Mrs. Carr talked about, when we first walked in here, maybe a handful of you had a general idea of the United Way. We'd like to, you know, hopefully as years come down the road with people like you helping us, we might be able, or someone else will come into a classroom and say, if someone asks what the United Way is, people know what it is. That brand understanding, that brand integrity, that it's a good thing, that they're doing good in the community, and, you know, why diversity is such an important thing for everyone.
We would be interested in something like that to roll out with next year's campaign, the 2013 campaign. It would need to be completed this school year, of course, but that's what we would be looking. We would be looking at a release in probably September of next year. Okay.
And again, we're not asking for money. That's not the goal of this. It's not to raise funds. That's you know, what the corporations and
whether
other
it's getting
campaign
involved,
does.
time, awareness, just that's kind of what we want the focus on. We're not looking at like at a drive or anything like that. Okay. All right.
So that's our quick pitch as to what we are, what we want to see happen. Open up to us if you have questions, if something was confusing. What Mrs. Carr is handing out, and again, this is just sort of background research that can help you. On the front side, it kind of just gives you a real easy breakdown of where our money goes in terms of the types of services we provide. On the back are those 170-some agencies that we support. And some of them you may already be a part of, Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or the YMCA. And that's how we touch, you know, 1 in 3 people in the community, trying to, you know, help them in any way possible. So, for questions?
I don't have enough.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you guys contact people that need this help, or do they contact you, or kind of both?
Well, if we hear of somebody that, you know, through the community that needs assistance, we will certainly have someone from one of the agencies contact them. Majority of the time, someone finds us or one of our agencies.
So yeah, there's a couple of ways. There's obviously agencies out there that are already out in the community, and people help them through those agencies. And then there's what's on those pens, and we kind of modeled this after calling 911. It's called 211, and this is a phone bank that's staffed by volunteers. And you know, if anyone has any concerns or confused, they don't know what they can do to turn to get help, you dial 211, and people can help you, connect you with some of those agencies that we support. So.
Yeah, and the United Way, you know, all those agencies that the United Way supports, the United Way has a real stringent, process of evaluation. So, you know, the United Way doesn't fully fund any agency. They have to be able to stand on their own first. So, you know, these agencies already have relationships with existing relationships with different parts of the community. So they kind of know who they need to serve in probably 70% of the cases. The United Way just makes sure, okay, hey, this is a credible agency, the management structure is right, the financing is sound, so we'll go ahead and supplement that agency so that it can be more effective.
And if you're interested in numbers on that, if you go to United Way, there is a link that shows you how much in the 2011 fiscal year what each agency received. So it's kind of mind-blowing how much we can help.
Do those agencies apply for specific dollar amounts of funds? Is that how that, it's kind of like a grant?
Yes, but then they have to go before to fill out a bunch of paperwork, and then there's like an auditing group that goes in and scrutinizes
Make sure
as
they
to
spend
really,
the money on what they're supposed to.
correct.
Okay.
There are volunteers like us, and anyone can do this, can serve on allocation panels. And these are people that drill down on each agency's application, on how much money they need, why they need it. Is the money actually going to the people, or is it like, I don't know if you guys have read about this at all, but Wyclef Jean and his Haiti agency, you know, he apparently, or not, maybe not him, but the people who work for him, took a ton of the money that people contributed that was supposed to go to the victims of the Haiti earthquake and stuff. So that's some of the things that the United Way does, trying to put that stamp of approval, so when people ultimately contribute, they'll know that that money is actually going where it's supposed to go and not lining someone's pockets. Because people, you know, it ensures trust and it's transparent and gives people a confident feeling that they're doing something that's actually helping people.
And one of the ways that I like to think about the United Way, you know, it's a place that, you know, that I trust in, that, you know, if I give them $100 per, you know, for example, they have the mechanism internally by which that $100 will be dispersed throughout the community to get the most bang for its buck. You know, you can give $100 to one specific organization. They might use, you know, 50 of it, and the rest of it be wasted. But the United Way makes sure that when you put your money in, it gets spread out throughout the community, and that the gift is impactful. Yep.
So, the majority of people who help out or volunteer for United Way, do they mostly just donate money, or is it mostly donating their time for a volunteer project, or how does that work?
There's a
Yeah, go for it.
there's a good mix, you know. So we're all a part of the Multicultural Leadership Cabinet. There's a group called Gen Next. That group of individuals are younger folks who don't necessarily have the money yet, so they just donate their time. They do service projects, they get together for networking events, kind of real informal. And then you have people that give, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, you know, and then you have corporations that give hundreds of thousands of dollars. So really it runs the full gamut from volunteer to corporations that give, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars.
Yeah, because every one of these agencies could use your help. Whether it's, you know, St. Vincent de Paul, which has thrift stores, or
We've taken our own children down there to work the back, you know, in the back, and whether it's sorting clothes, putting toys, lining the toys up, or putting toys back where they're supposed to be, that kind of thing. It's just any which way you can ever imagine to give back. I am sure the United Way, if you call the number and you're interested in a certain project, they will be able to assist you and give you ideas.
so, and in that, I think that raises a good point. Is that one way you can reach your peers? You know, whether, you know, is it a quick video or a Twitter campaign or something on Instagram where you're grabbing people together to do service projects, or, you know, is it more informational? That we leave that to your expertise as to what you think impacts the most with people that you interact with. And again, that awareness, that brand awareness, the information, the education, that's going to help at the end for the United Way in a number of forms, whether it's continuing volunteering or whether, you know, it's contributing to a campaign. So I think we're almost out of time unless there's other questions.
One thing, and I know you touched on this just briefly, can you, from your guys' experience and perspective in the business industry and some different industries, talk about the just importance of being educated on diversity, and especially multicultures?
Sure. My background growing up was white middle class Roman Catholic. So the first time I met someone of a different ethnicity, African American, I was a freshman in college. Just gaining a different perspective Because before it was, well, that's strange, that doesn't look like me, that's not me, I can't relate. That certainly, that experience when I got to college was like, wow, that really makes me appreciate where I came from, and I get a perspective that I wouldn't have had I surrounded myself with homogeny. Okay? And then, of course, you know, you get your fingers into a bunch of different cultures, you meet people of so many different backgrounds that can just bring ideas to you. I married a Hindu from Southeast Asia, and then Iowa. Okay. You just never know.
Iowa's more diverse.
Yeah. So it really opens your eyes to a lot of issues that it kind of makes you a better person. You realize that it's not just all about you. There's more to how the world goes around than just, you know, white bread America.
For me, very quickly, you know, in the legal world, it is to your advantage to think about, sort of to what you were talking about, diversity of ideas, understanding where people are coming from. And so we may deal with, or I may deal with corporations, but ultimately I'm dealing with people who have either acted in certain ways or have a certain way of thinking, or they want something to be done. And the more experience I have dealing with different people who are not necessarily thinking just like me, it helps me be a better attorney and a better counselor, because I'm not only understanding where he or she is coming from, but I have a more array of ideas and thoughts that I can interact with him or her to give them a solution. That's just a very micro example of how that impacts me. If a very quick macro reason why diversity is important, and this has been touted the last couple of weeks, within your lifetime, and they're saying no later than 2050, there's going to be a major demographic change in this country, where,
I saw it last night.
yeah, and you probably saw it a little bit in the election results yesterday. So what Mrs. Carr grew up with, which has always been the majority in this country, is not going to be the majority. So that is nothing to be scared of, but it's a fact of life. And it's not just one monolithic group. It's going to be people of various different backgrounds, not only ethnically, religiously, but also socioeconomically. And the quicker people learn how to work with each other and handle that
And appreciate
it, it's gonna make your life easier and better, and things should hopefully be better in the future.
Yeah, and I would say, just, you know, from my perspective, it's really easy to go through life assuming that people think the way that you do. You know, if you never really reach out and, you know, to folks of different cultures, it's really easy to interpret someone's behavior, you know, based on the way you would do something. So, for example, you know, if I asked you a question and you just put your head down and didn't say anything, I might think, well, if I did that, that means I'm disinterested and I'm kind of checking out of the conversation. Well, certain people in certain cultures would do that because they're deferring to their leader that's in the room. And if I wasn't aware of that, I would just think, oh, well, like, what's going on? You know, you just don't know until you reach out to people and try to make that connection, learn about different cultures. It especially helps in the workplace. The workplace is getting more and more diverse every day. Half of my team lives in Bangalore, India. You know, and this is, you know, a real specific example of how it's helped me. You know, we were having trouble working with that team because we didn't really understand why we wouldn't get an email reply to, or why, you know, they would behave in a certain way. And actually, Express Scripts provided a class. That's how bad the situation was, a diversity class where we could learn about the culture over there. And, you know, what we found out was that, you know, they had a leadership structure where, you know, if you're in a group and Mr. Bunton's in here, you know, you can't talk until he talks first and gives you permission to. So we're sending an email to the whole team that's addressed to a certain person. They're not going to get back with us right away because they need to consult with the leader and then funnel through that way. It's more rigid structure. Also, you know, the individuals in Bangalore, they, you know, here, for people who are from St. Louis in corporate culture, it's really fast-paced. You don't have time for pleasantries. You might say hi, but then you're trying to get the job done and move on. And we're fine with that. But, you know, the team offshore, they really value that relationship. They want to know about you first. They want to know, you know, what did you have for lunch? You know, where did you grow up? Did you play sports? You know, just little things like that make them, you know, more comfortable, and it's more of a team, family situation versus everybody's kind of for themselves. We all understand, and we're trying to achieve a goal. So, you know, and that's just one example of one culture. As Arindam said, the more you can learn about, the better, because if you just go looking at it like people are acting the way they do because of the way that I would act if I thought a certain way, if that makes any sense, it's going to serve you poorly.
Questions? Amen? Okay, well, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. And we'll get in touch through Mr. Button through the course of the school year, as you guys you're going to probably really start hitting this early part of next year.
Yep.
And we'll try to provide any information you may want. If you need follow-up information, if you want to meet people who can help you tailor sort of what you want to do, we're at your disposal.